bench 250 pounds and break 20 minutes in a 5K at 46. That's my goal. Let's increase the stakes. Like, yo, I only have like 35 summers left to really enjoy. I am 46. 35 summers later would put me at 81. I might not even get to 35 summers. When you think about how many trips around the sun we got, that I will be coherent, cogent, able to like chase my kids' kids. I don't know. So I'm like, I really gotta step up and really challenge myself to this. Folks, your exciting new medical career, it's just been hit with a serious illness or injury that stops you from earning a paycheck just when you need it most. Check out what Jamie Fleischner of Set for Life Insurance said back on episode 176 about having disability insurance early in your career.
The real reason to get it early on is really twofold. One is to protect your insurability. So if you are healthy and you can obtain the coverage, you also pre-approve yourself to be able to buy more in the future. So down the road, as your income does increase, you don't have to answer additional medical questions. All you have to do is show that your income is increased and you can buy more benefits at that time. No medical questions asked.
Protect your income, secure your future. Check out setforlifeinsurance.com. What's good, everyone? It is Dr. Nee. I am solo, Fadolo. That's right. It's just me. Dr. Renee can't make it on this episode. So I figured, or at least my team figured, that why don't I create an episode where I'm giving you guys an opportunity. I'm talking about the things that are going on with the Darkos, with Docs Outside the Box. Since, we've just been talking about so many different things, including locums, including traveling to Ghana and doing medical mission work, as well as telling the stories of just, doctors who are doing extraordinary things outside of medicine that a lot of times we forget to keep you guys updated with what's going on with us. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot that, I'll be really honest with you, I'm really scared about. And why don't we just jump right into it? We have finally decided to purchase a home, as you can see in the bottom ticker below. We've been renting here in New Jersey for close to about 5 years now. We spent 1 year renting at one property. They sold that property. And now, we're 4 years into another home that we're renting. And it's been a great situation to rent. The way how we rent, we try to keep it at least like 20% of what our income is, right? So we try to keep our costs low. And, what's the best way I could describe it? I like the neighborhood, right? The neighborhood is great. It's not the neighborhood that I initially would have gone to, leaving Pennsylvania and coming back to Jersey. And we can get into that later on into the show. But this isn't a neighborhood that I ended up really growing. It's grown on me. Just leave it to you like that without trying to describe it too much. It's as diverse as I think it can be. It's diverse enough for my kids, I think, to feel comfortable. I think it could always be more diverse, but from that standpoint, the ratios, I think, are acceptable. It's a really good school system. For how much it's worth to be in this neighborhood, it's a really good school system, enough so that they don't have to go to private school. And anybody who's sending their kids to private school, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Them private school fees are expensive as hell. And, I never understood how someone can spend, upwards of $10,000 or $15,000 on their children for school outside of high school until we had to do it for childcare, specifically for preschool and pre-K. The schools that our kids were in, they're in a normal, regular preschool, and they were ranging anywhere between like $1,400 to $1,500 a month. Right? That's crazy, right? So you multiply that by 12. That's crazy. That's like 15 G's, 16 G's, 17 G's. I'm not going to do the exact multiplication, but 10 times, 1,400 or 1,500, you're already at 14. And then you add two more of those, where it's at. And so, that being able to be in a school system where the school system is good enough where, listen, property taxes and a tax system provides a really good educational system that you don't have to pay for that. That's great. And then you throw on top of that, we're renting, and all we're doing is basically just paying rent. That's it. It was a great win for us. So the problem ended up being in the back of my mind. There's two issues that I've ended up having is I knew we were getting a good rate with our rent, right? But I always knew that eventually somebody can pull the rug underneath us, whether that's increasing, jacking up our rent, or just saying, hey, we're selling this house. You guys are going to have to find someplace else. And the neighborhood that we live in is a small neighborhood. It's so small that it actually annexes, what's the best way to describe it? You ever been to a school system where, it's actually two cities or two towns that have merged together? They're still separate, but they use the same high school or may use the same, middle school. That's the type of neighborhood that we live in. And we live in a small neighborhood that's attached to a larger neighborhood, but the school district is all shared between them. But the inventory for houses is really, really low in this area. So my big fear is, one, we have settled into this neighborhood. We like the people in this neighborhood. It checks so many different boxes. It's just that the inventory for houses is so low that I'm going to be really honest with you. Like, I just didn't want to buy a house. And that was my big thing. I didn't want to buy a house in this neighborhood because I felt like the houses are overpriced. Now, it's not just this neighborhood. It's wherever you go in Jersey. And I'm sure whoever's listening to this, you'll be like, yo, like in my neighborhood in West Bubble F, Michigan, or Iowa, or in Cali, or in Atlanta, like housing prices are straight through the roof. But someone who grew up in Jersey and left and then came back and, like, I grew up in Jersey in the 90s, you know what I'm saying? And these houses are like $150,000, $200,000 houses that are now going for like 700, 800,000, right? All because of the neighborhoods that they're in, right? So we don't live too far from New York. So what we're finding is after COVID, so many people who were spending or used to spending like 3 stacks, 4 stacks for an apartment were like, okay, after COVID, I don't have to be going into New York all the time. Why don't I just take this money, go to Jersey, live right next to where a train line is, take the train in whenever I need to because I live right near a train line, and then use that money towards a house. Got a backyard. Got a school system that I don't have to put my kid into private school into. Jack the prices up. Inventory goes down. And now these houses that are like, all right, maybe I'm exaggerating. They're not 200,000, but maybe they're like 350 or 400. They're going for like 800. And when you walk into these houses, they need work, and not just like a paint job. Like, these are houses that are just regular one family starter family houses that are just crazy. And anybody who knows me knows that I still drive a Toyota Corolla. I'm gonna keep it to you like that. With what's the best way to describe it? No aspirations for anything more extravagant than that. I like that. I like the gas prices. I know I can always tell that I'm never gonna go over $30 to go from E to F. Let's leave it to you like that. Even when gas prices are at $3, I'm never gonna go that high. The most I would probably go up to is maybe like a CRV, Honda CRV, because, we need to be able to put, we just need a little bit more room. I would say that at this point, we probably need a little bit more room, but that's all we need. And the Tesla went back. And as y'all know, like, that wasn't coming off personal funds. That was coming off, business funds. Now, we use it only for business. I'm serious. We only use it for business. But like, for me, like, I don't really need much. So for me to spend $800,000 on a house that's like $300,000, that's a problem for me. Right? Because that mortgage is going to change. That mortgage doesn't change, even though the values can fluctuate at times. Now, I don't know when the housing market is going to crash, quote unquote, or what's it going to do, but it just keeps rising and rising and rising. And that's the part that frustrates me. So overall, though, we have a son that has a little bit of some special needs, not too much, but we feel like the school has like everything that he needs. So like, we want to be here for the next 5-10 years. Yeah, we want to be here for the next 5 or 10 years, maybe even longer. So we're dedicated to being in this community. And it just so happened while we're in Ghana, we got an email saying that, hey, yo, the landlord said, hey, yo, like, we are going to sell this house. And we just want to give you guys a heads up that you might start to see for sale signs. You might start to see inspectors come by. You might see everything that goes along with putting a house for sale. All of that stuff is going to be happening. and we want to let y'all know this is going to happen. And you throw on top of that, inventory's low. On top of that, I don't know what is going to happen with renting in this neighborhood. We decided to say, hey, let's throw our hat in the ring and go after this house. So I got a question for y'all. Like, before I even go into a further point, I want to know, people who are listening right now, I know most of the residents who are listening to this show, y'all are still renting, but to the attendings out there, to folks who are in different health professions, how many of y'all are still renting right now? How many of y'all plan to go into home ownership? So I'm 46. I've been practicing for over 12 years now. I had up until that email went out, like I was like, look, how long can we ride this out? And there's always that discussion of like, okay, look, you're paying somebody else's rent, right? There's always that discussion. You're paying somebody else's rent, or you're paying somebody else's mortgage. Excuse me. Your rent is paying someone else's mortgage. How long is that going to go on for? You're not building any equity in this. But we were using that money to invest, whether it was in a health savings account, whether it was in our college account for our kids, or even a brokerage account for us. And, we were always putting money away 3 to 5 years, and further than that for this type of situation. It's just that now that we've been saving so much and investing so much, it's like, man, do we really want to pop that cork? Do we want to take the seal off and use that? And the time has arisen, right? So this is an opportunity to possibly get this house without using a realtor. So it just kind of popped on us. But how many of y'all feel the pressure to buy? If you're renting right now, do you feel the pressure to purchase right now? Those who are in their house right now, do you look at it more like a house? Like, I don't care what happens to the market, this is our home, we're going to stay here. Or do you look at it like an investment property where it's like, if we don't get a certain amount of return, or we're going to be in this house for a finite period of time, like 3 years, 5 years, however long it may be. But after that, we expect a certain rate of return on this money, and we out. And when we out, we're doing a 1031 exchange. Long story short is we're going to sell this property, try to get another investment property, and not have to pay too much taxes on it. How many of y'all are in that situation versus this is our house? If the market is up, this is still our house. If the market is down, this is still our house. If the kids leave and they're no longer in public school, this is our house. How many of y'all are in that situation? Right? Are you cool with that if the value of your house goes stagnant? Are you cool with that? So these are the things that now I got to think about. Before I was like, look, here's my rent. We good. There's a problem in the house. Fix it. Thanks. We out. Comparing the cost of renting for 1 year or your first year versus renting or versus buying a house, right? So what's the cost of your first year in your house versus the cost of renting, right? So if you're buying a home, first year, right? And this is going to be in perpetuity as long as you own the home, is property taxes, right? You're going to have to pay property taxes, closing costs, insurance, and maintenance. So let's take off something real quick. Actually, I have property taxes, down payment, closing costs, insurance, and maintenance. And then also your mortgage. Now, your insurance, your property taxes are going to be put into your mortgage. But in essence, your first year, once you get through that first year, you ain't got to worry about closing costs anymore. As a matter of fact, once you get through closing, that's just a one-time fee and that's it. So closing costs are going to be off after that first month. Insurance, that's, however long you're going, that's, homeowner's insurance or whatever type of insurance you're going to have. You may have that for a minute or you may have that for as long as you have the property. Maintenance, right? Just know that the roof is going to go sometime, or the water heater. All of those things may go at some point. And then property taxes, which, speaking of such, in this neighborhood, they're thinking about increasing the property taxes because so many people have moved into this small neighborhood and is taxing the system so much that the classes are starting to become overrun, right? Like you're having class sizes of 25 and maybe even more. Like on the real, like my son's art class is on a cart. Like it doesn't have a classroom. Like they are like, it's mobile art class, right? Because there's not enough classrooms just for regular classes. So damn sure like music or gym or art is going to be on a cart. And so what they proposed is increasing property taxes so they can actually build a new school. And obviously, if you don't have a kid in the school system, and if you're older, you're like, well, why am I paying more for this possibly? And if you're someone like me and Renee, who are going to be using the school system for the next 10 years, we're like, yeah, man, like I don't want my kids' classrooms overrun. Raise the prices a little bit, And the thing that I have to think, like, it's just all these things that you just ain't got to think about, right? But my thought process is this: if the classes get overrun, if they get overcrowded, and then teachers start leaving, and then the quality of the education goes down, guess what else goes along with that when the prices go down, or when the quality of education goes down, right? Your house prices. So whether or not you have a kid in the school system or not, I think you have a stake in this game. So, whereas if I'm renting, look, the only thing that I got to worry about my first year is the security deposit and first month's rent and insurance. And, insurance, depending on what you have in your house, is mad cheap, right? That's what we do. So you convert whatever your security deposit is, whatever rent is, and insurance, convert that for property taxes, insurance, maintenance, as well as a huge down payment. We're talking about like, something that could be like $9,000 versus $99,000, $100,000, maybe even more. So that's something that is a lot to think about. But in these high cost of living areas, it's something that you may be forced to do. If you live in a low cost of living area, if you live in the Midwest, which from what I'm hearing, the Midwest is really starting to go up in price, you may have a lot more time to kind of think about this. And as a matter of fact, there's a New York Times article that has been updated that properly delineates. We talked about this on a previous episode. It helps you to determine should you rent versus should you buy. I'll put that link in the show notes so you can take a look at that. But some questions that you guys should ask yourself before you buy is, I got my notes right here, is how long do you plan to be there? So we said we're going to be here at least 5 to 10 years, probably even longer. But if you are like 3 years or less, definitely if you're a resident and you're probably going to be going someplace else to do fellowship, or you just are here only because you matched in this spot, you probably should be renting. Same thing if you're in attending and you just got a job there, and you in your first year, second year, third year, you know me already. I'm just like, you never know. You may want to not buy that house yet. Just rent it out. See how things go for a little bit before you purchase, right? What is the state of the housing market in your local area? That's another thing that you need to check out, right? If it's not very competitive, then you might be able to, purchase something for yourself at a really good bid, at a really good cost. If it's really competitive, it speaks for itself. And then last but not least, I kind of mentioned this, and how long do you plan to stay there, is what about job security and satisfaction? If your job is very secure, if you're satisfied with your job, then you may want to consider purchasing. If you're not satisfied, if the job is not very secure, then come on now. You don't want the one thing that's holding you into a job that you can't stand. The worst reason why you want to go into a job and talk to people that you can't stand and have to deal with them for 10 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, depending on, what kind of... what kind of call you take, is if, damn, I can't sell my house. I purchased this house. It's too expensive. Right? So I would say, think about those three things. How long do you plan to be in a neighborhood? What is the state of the housing market in your local area? And what about job security and satisfaction? But yeah, the Darkos, we purchasing a home. We're doing it, like I said earlier, without a real estate agent. So hopefully we'll save some costs there. But, we're doing the usual things. We're getting it inspected, and we're also we're getting our own real estate lawyer, and we're going to make it work. And we're going to make sure that we're doing this the smart way. But yeah, bro's a little scared about this. So wish us luck, and we'll keep you guys updated as to how this goes. So let us know what you think about these questions that I asked for you. Like, how many of y'all are still renting? Do you feel the pressure to buy? All those different things I'm really interested in. Put it in the YouTube comments or in Instagram or email. You know exactly how to let us know. All right. Let's take a quick break, and we're going to go to our next topic. No matter where you are in your career, you've seen patients your age or younger get seriously injured, have a long-term illness, or even have a mental health issue that affects their ability to work. Now, what if that was you? No, for real. What if that was you? Without disability insurance, how are you going to replace your paycheck? In episode 176, Jamie Fleischner of Cepha Life Insurance explains why the best time to buy disability insurance is during your residency.
Most physicians acquire their disability policies during residency, and there's several reasons. First of all, when you're younger, you're able to obtain the insurance because they ask you a whole host of medical history. And so you usually don't get healthier over time. Usually you get less healthy over time. So when you're healthy, it's easier to acquire the coverage. Number two, it's also less expensive because it's based on your age and your health. You're not getting younger or healthier over time. So you're at the ideal time. The earlier you get it and the younger you are, the less expensive it's going to be.
So whether you're a resident or you're an attending, it's never too late to protect your income. Renee and I, we use Set for Life Insurance to find a disability policy that fit our needs and budget. So what are you waiting for? Check out setforlifeinsurance.com. Once again, that's setforlifeinsurance.com. All right, guys, we are back. All right, let's jump into the fitness journey. So I've been kind of talking about it in smatterings here and there on the various podcasts, but now I am on almost year 3 of my fitness journey. And this started with reading the book Atomic Habits. I'm just gonna be really honest with you. I ran track in high school. I ran track and cross country in college. And after not getting into medical school, I got rejected the first time. I went back and I did some graduate assistant work with track and cross country at my school. And the deal was, as long as I coached, they would help pay for me to get my, to take some grad level courses, and I would get my application stronger. Once I got into medical school, I was out. So during those 2 years of doing grad assistant work, I was, staying in shape also. I was an average athlete. I'll leave it to you like that. I was an average track and field Division I athlete, right? Nothing, I wasn't horrible, but I wasn't great. I was just right in the middle. That's it. And then once I got into med school, I mentally was like, I don't care what is going on in my life. My job, my loan promissory note is saying that you are a professional student and you got to make this work. So I let everything go. Everything, y'all. I'm serious. I let everything go. I didn't work out. If I did work out, I would go and run these crazy things. I'd say, I'd like to see what I can do on a mile on a treadmill back then. This is 2003, 2004. I could still run maybe a 5:15, 5:30 mile on a treadmill, right? And not be huffing and puffing. But I wasn't in shape, if you know what I mean. I had the muscle memory, I had the speed, but I wasn't in shape, right? Because afterwards, the next day, my hamstrings are sore, my Achilles are sore, everything is really sore. And I'd be sore for several weeks, which means that, the speed is there, but the conditioning is not there. And then you throw that and you multiply that by year, by year, by year. And in residency, what? Yeah, your residency, bad hours, long hours, stress. Throw on top of that, I wasn't eating right. Probably was drinking a little too much, drinking Pepsis every day in the morning. We're talking about, close to about 19 years, 18 years of a sedentary lifestyle. So I blew up in weight. So in college, I was probably 145. By the time I got to, when I decided I wanted to start working out, which was about 3.5 years ago, I was about up to 190. So we're talking about a 50-pound difference for someone like me who's 5'10". That's a big deal. So that book really helped me to get started on a couple of things. One, building a habit and really starting to develop the love for exercising on a daily basis, or at least thinking about being active on a daily basis. And since then, I haven't looked back. And, I've been using this app called Future. Right. And I'll show it on the phone. They're not sponsoring the show. I wish they would sponsor because I really love this app. But this app has really taken me and my fitness to another level. Right. And starting in November, it'll be 1 year that I've been working with this app. So basically, it's virtual / private personal training. I communicate with them through an app, and that's it. Right? We can do video chatting, but it's every 3 months. We do about 30 minutes on video chat, but the rest is daily communicating by text. They send you workouts, you get your workout on, and it's a great app. But before we get into that, I just want to say real quick that I want to tell you about my why, right? Why did I switch from, so what I was using before is I was using like T25. I was doing all these beach body workouts. Basically, Rich, if you could think about Richard Simmons, like those type of workouts on steroids, right? So I got an online subscription. It was like $19 for like every 3 months, and I had access to all these different type of workouts. But for me, I started off with T25, where for 25 minutes I was just being active. For 6 days a week, I was just being active. That was for 6 months. That was the goal. Is I don't want to break the chain. And it's high intensity training, right? So we're talking about, like the majority of the workout, your heart rate is really like, for me, I'm assuming it was in the 130s, 140s. I didn't have a watch at that time, but I was sweating like crazy. But it was 25 minutes. And I knew that if I can get that done, if I can carve out 25 minutes in my busy day of doing call, of putting chest tubes in, of being with my family, being Dr. Dad and being the best husband that I could try to be, doing a podcast on top of that for 25 minutes, I can't just spend time, for myself to do what I need to do. That was something that was really important for me. And then from there, I went to something more intense on Beachbody. It was called Insanity, which was high intensity training again, right? And then from there, I went to something called The Work, where now, T25 as well as Insanity, you're not using any weights whatsoever. This is all body weights. This is all high interval, high intensity type training. And now The Work, I'm actually using a pull-up bar. I'm using weights. So I bought a weight set off Amazon. I used that and it went from 5 pounds to 25 pounds. And that was it. And what I ended up finding out with that program is it was great. Like it was a combination of high intensity workouts, but you're also using weights. I liked it, but the thing I really didn't like was he would always say, hey, get your light weights, get your medium weights, and get your heavy weights. The question is, what does that mean? Right? Like what's light for me for bicep curls could be, I don't know, 5 pounds. I don't know, 25 pounds. I don't know. Right? Like you kind of decide what is heavy for you, what's light for you. And that basically was the theme of the entire workout is you're doing these great workouts. You're finishing these workouts. I was getting my butt whooped. But, in terms of the weights, I really wasn't able to challenge myself in the way that I wanted to. So by the time I got to The Work, we're talking about close to a year and a half now of consistently working out. And that's even why I gave myself the permission to get the weight set. So just so y'all know, like I was not playing. Like I was like, I know myself. I start and stop things on a whim. And I'm not going to give myself an excuse by purchasing equipment and getting all souped up off of getting the equipment. And then at the last minute saying, I don't want to do this anymore. Right. And now I got this like expensive ass, whatever it may be. And it's becoming a hanger for clothes or whatever it is. And it's collecting dust. So I said, yo, bump that. I'm going to be working out I'm going to prove to myself that I deserve this equipment, whatever it may be. I'm going to prove to myself that I deserve a pull-up bar. I'm going to prove to myself that I need the gloves and all that stuff. And after a year and a half, my wife was like, yo, like, why don't you get yourself like, some weights? Why don't you get yourself some bench and all that? And I was like, all right. But before I did that, I signed up. One of my friends from med school put me up on the Future app. And I'll tell you right now, like the Future app was amazing. Like I'm going to see if I can show, the screen here. But basically you have a coach and you meet with this coach. You talk about your goals. And the goals for me were, I just want to get bigger. Like, I've lost the weight. I'm down to 175, which I think that's pretty good weight for me. Right. And I've shown that I can exercise consistently. Like it'd be nice to have someone who can help me lift 5 pounds and then the next week help push me to get to 10 pounds and then have a little bit of some accountability also. So I decided to leave the videos alone because I think it was time for a higher sense of accountability, right? Like you reach a steady state where the videos can only give you so much. And now it's like, okay, listen, like you proved to yourself that like you can watch videos and you can do the exercises. Like when are you going to take the next step? And that was part of the why for me. Like I just felt like by the time we're starting Future, I'm like 44, 45. And I'm like, look, like I'm starting to believe like the thing that's limiting me is my age. But now I'm realizing the thing that's limiting me is my brain, because this app has really allowed me to be almost in the best shape of my life. And the question is what exactly is the best shape of my life mean, right? Does the best shape of my life mean that, I could go and run like 10 miles and then come back and do X, Y, and Z and all that stuff that I used to do when I was in high school or in college? Or does the best shape in your life mean that like you can bench 250 pounds and break 20 minutes in a 5K at 46? Now, I can't do that yet, but that's my goal. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, what does the best shape in your life mean? So I don't know. That was the thought process of using this app was, okay, let's increase the stakes. Let's make the stakes go up. It's expensive. We'll get into that later. But the other thing I was thinking about is like, I only have like 35 summers left to really enjoy. On the real, right? Like, I am 46. Like, by the time I'm 30, 35 summers later would put me at what? 81, right? Like, and I might not even get to 35 summers, right? Like, when you think about how many trips around the sun we got, or at least I have, that I will be coherent, cogent, able to like chase my kids, kids, right? Like, I don't know. So I'm like, I really gotta step up and really challenge myself to this. And that's why I decided to get the Future app. And I felt like, even though the videos were great and I was really diligent on it, I felt like I was still there was a lot left in the tank. Just leave it to you like that. There's a lot left in the tank. Even to this point with the Future app, I feel like there's so much more I can do. But it's tough, right? Because in order to do more, right, the workouts are about an hour. And that's what I want. I don't want to work out more than an hour, because if I'm at home, it's like, well, I want to spend time with my kids. I want to spend time with my wife. I want to spend time podcasting. I want to spend time with my family. I don't want to spend like endless hours just working out and then sacrificing some of the things that are just as important to me. So I think an hour and 10 minutes, maybe even an hour and 20 to 30 minutes is enough time for me to get to whatever fitness that I can get to. And if whatever I can get to that point, that's it. That's all you get from me. That's it, And the other reason with the videos, and definitely with the Future app, is they create the workouts for you. After you talk to them and you let them know what your goals are, and I told you my goals were, I just want to get bigger. I want to appear that I'm more muscular, right? I don't want to be like a bodybuilder, but I want to be like Diesel. If you're from the 80s and the 90s, you know what I'm talking about. I wanted to look Diesel. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to add on some muscle weight. And I didn't want to create the workouts because I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend my entire day thinking about, okay, well, today's Wednesday, so it should be leg day, and I should do like piston squats, and then I should do like dead rows. But is that really like, I don't want to do all that. Where I thrive is you tell me what you think I should do, and then I will just do it. And that's it. That's where I thrive, because I get a lot of analysis paralysis. So if you tell me this is the workout, I'll do it. So for example, like yesterday was a lower type workout, right? And I'll take a video of this so you can see on the screen. But basically, like, we're doing deadlifts, we're doing dumbbell lunges, we're doing, a whole bunch of different plank saws. Then we're doing elevated dumbbell split squats, and the workouts and the weights, they go up or they go down depending on how you're doing, right? So, my coach is a woman. She's amazing. Is Nicole. She works the hell out of me. Nicole, shout out to you, yo. You're amazing, yeah. My first coach was Antoine. He was dope also. But me and Nicole, we got a thing going on and stuff. Renee, don't be tripping about this. It's just the workout thing. And, like, we'll start off like with deadlifts, right? Like, we're starting out at 60 pounds, 8 reps of 60-pound deadlifts, right? Like, and I don't do I haven't decided to buy a barbell yet, because I don't want to get a barbell yet. So I'm just using dumbbells, and I'll tell you, I'll put in a video so you guys can see right here where you can see what I use. I use an adjustable system called Nuabells, which are amazing, right? But yeah, like, we're starting off at 60 pounds, but I have the ability to go up to the next rep to 65. Then I go up to 70 pounds, right? And what this does is it does the calculation so that next week, maybe you start at 65, but then so instead of starting at 60, you start next week at 65 so that you end up at like 80, right? So it's like this progressive overload system. And then it's already programmed in that after 4 to 5 weeks, you go through a deload week. And, the next day after that, you may either have off or maybe upper body or maybe cardio, but I don't have to think about it. All I have to do is open up the app. There's an amazing message from my coach. Check out this message. This is from the workout I just did. Check this out.
Hope you're having a solid Friday. We have some lower body work on the menu today. Going to be hitting glute work, quad work. Everything's getting a little bit of love. We're going to be incorporating some conditioning at the end, a quick arm farm, and then a cool down. All right. So biggest thing is focusing on full range of motion. We want to make sure the muscles are completely lengthened, and that's when we want to provide the most tension. So holding a little bit longer in the deadlift at the end with the elevated split squats, pausing at the bottom for a moment. That's a great way just to stimulate great muscle growth. All right. Have an awesome session today, and let's rock and roll.
Boom. There it is. Right. And then throughout the workout, she's actually, it tells you what the workout is. There's a timer on it. And then there's times where she has messages like halfway through the workout saying like, come on, don't, this is the toughest part of the workout. Keep it going. Make sure you remember your form. It's a great app. And then, like I said, like I'm texting her through the day. She's texting me in the morning. Hey, got a workout today. I left you a message. These are the things that I want you to focus on. Or she's leaving a message about how I did the night before on my workout. It's really good. It's really good. Like yesterday, I sent her a message saying like maybe like hypertrophy and trying to get bigger is not the goal for me. Maybe I really need to change things up and do, maybe I need to try to like get my max up really high because I really do want to hit 250. So maybe we should really be hitting like shorter reps. And she's like, well, we went back and forth in a really nice, conversation, but we ended up just saying, just chill, trust the system. You're going up in weight. But if you really want to change, let's finish this year off, which will be in November, and then let's change things up. I was like, all right, bet. Cool. So it's a great app. It's a great app. I love it. I love it. So, I'm going to quickly talk about the equipment that I'm using. Let's start off with this. If you can't see on video, these are the Nike Metcon 5s. No, you do not have to get this color. Yes, I am eccentric like that with my shoes. I don't know what kind of color. This is like this is definitely yellow or high yellow and fuchsia and aqua or I don't know, whatever it is. But yeah, I be standing out in the gym with these and I love it, right? These shoes are great. These are called Metcon 5s by Nike. These are last year's model. I love these shoes for a couple of reasons. So normally when I work out, when I was doing the videos, I was using regular running shoes. And what I found out is when I'm doing a HIIT training and I'm going from side to side and doing all these different types of moves that I felt like I didn't have the greatest like ankle stability. And I felt like I would always kind of tip over a little bit. But when I go for a run, it's great, right? The running shoes are great and narrow. They're great for a run, right? I can go out and bust out like 5 miles and feel great afterwards. But with HIIT training as well as with the Future app, a lot of these, at least with my goals, since I'm hitting the weights, I need the stability. I need the stability to like make sure that if I'm doing squats or if I'm doing dead presses and so forth, right, that, I'm not going to tilt from side to side. And I just didn't want to I didn't want to get 2 shoes. So I did a lot of YouTubing. And I read a lot of blogs and found out that like there's these hybrid type shoes and it came upon this. And this shoe is really great for lifting. It's really great for running and everything in between. And that's what I use it for. So I think for running, it's really good for, I'd say up to about 3 miles, I think is really good. Once I get past 3 miles, it's very uncomfortable. And mainly because this right here, like this boot in the back here is really big and thick. And then also here, you see how wide it is? Like, it just feels like I'm almost like wearing almost like a boot almost, but it doesn't feel like a boot, but it's as wide as a boot. So I could run in these. I'm not going to get fast times in these, but these allow me to, do squats and do deadlifts and to do split squats or whatever I would do in the gym and get the great support that I need without having to change sneakers, and I can still run, a couple of miles. And then obviously these are really good for sprints, right? Like if you want to do sprints, or if you want to do some type of like suicides where you have to run really fast, stop, and then kind of change direction and go back. I like these. So these are awesome. These are the shoes that I use. Alfred, if you could put a video up of the Nuabel adjustable weights that I use. So some of you all may be familiar with the Bowflex. Bowflex kind of started this. These are like adjustable weights. This is basically a dumbbell rack, and you twist the knob or you turn the knob and basically the weights change, right? And I didn't want to get a whole rack of weights because that's one, hella expensive. Two, we rented at the time and I didn't want to I didn't have the space for it. Let's leave it to you like that. So I just got these adjustable weights and I love them. And they go anywhere from 5 pounds to 80 pounds. And they save a lot of space. I love them. Hella expensive, but not as expensive as buying individual dumbbells of 5 pounds all the way up to 80 pounds. I'm going to tell you that right now. I wasn't going to spend that much. Your bro ain't going to do it. And then I have a pull-up bar. Got that off Amazon. If I find it, I'll put the links in the show notes. And then I got a pair of gloves. Gloves, nobody told me this, but investing in a pair of gloves as a surgeon, high key, it's the shit. Like I was working out for several weeks and I would get these crazy calluses, and you're trying to move the laparoscopic equipment and like my fingers and my grip is like, damn. And then people were like, yeah, why don't you just get some, gloves? And I was like, gloves? I thought those are for like professional lifters. They're like, no, dumbass. Like everybody uses them. And since then, I'm carrying heavy weights and I don't have calluses anymore. And it's been great. So definitely gloves are great. And then I got this Rep Fitness bench. And that's what I use when I do my dumbbell bench press or my triceps or my split squats. And that's what I do. And then I use the Future app. And if anybody's interested, if you want to hit me up, I can get you a free month. This runs anywhere between like $175 to $199 a month. It's expensive, I think. But compared to one-on-one private coaching where it's personal and you're meeting with the person, that could run you like $300, $400 a month. So the fact that it's half the cost, if not even more than that, and I'm getting the same results, I think it's worth it for me. So, you look at not working out and how much that's going to cost you in terms of, not being in shape, being sedentary, not being happy with yourself, and the after effects of that, being on medications and so forth. For me, this is an investment. It's an investment in myself. So I ended up buying in 6-month packages. And when you buy in 6-month packages, it brings it down to like $175 a month. So for me, it's worth it. And I don't spend much money on anything else. So for me, it's like, okay, well, I spent the money on the sneakers. I spent the money, on these things, but I don't go to a gym. So I don't have to spend money on a gym. I'm here in my house and I'm working out. So that money to me is well spent. There's no way that you can convince me that what I'm paying for is not worth it. Now, there are other competitors out there with apps that may be a little bit cheaper, but the relationship that I have with my coach, the ability to text them all the time, I think is worth it. So if you're interested in it, just hit me up and I can get you a month for free. I can do like these free guest passes and so forth. So let me know and you can get a month for free and sign up. But they're not sponsoring the show, but it's dope. All right. Listen, we're going to go take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right. We are back. One of my favorite parts of doing a podcast is so many people ask us questions, and it's been a lot trying to answer all of your questions in a timely fashion, but I see them all. I read them all. I think about them all. I just may not type them all back. I may not respond to you back in a timely fashion, but I know that you guys are asking these questions. I love to answer them, and I know everything, just so you guys know. I know everything now, so keep asking away. So this is from Elizabeth Ediong, I think. And this was on YouTube, and it says, I want to be a part-time doctor. Can I be that in EM, emergency medicine, pediatrics, and radiology? These are the specialties I'm interested in. Also, I want to make good money, but working lesser days. Also, please, can I locum as a consultant? Absolutely. So yeah, so this is a really good question, Elizabeth. So basically, can you be a part-time doctor being EM, pediatrics, radiology? So the question is, what is part-time? Part-time in essence is, so basically you have full-time employee where you're working listen, for those who aren't doctors, doctors work more than, and professionals work more than 40 hours a week, right? We're talking about like close to about 80 hours a week, right? And then, you multiply that by how many weeks in a month, and then you multiply that by the year, and you go from there. And that's how you determine if you're full-time. And then part-time is going to be half of that, or some semblance of some type of fraction of full-time. Definitely in EM, you can do that, right? Because in EM, I think it's very acceptable for a locums type of lifestyle or independent type of lifestyle. And in that type of lifestyle, nobody's keeping track of when you work, how you work. Basically, it's you work and then you get paid. And you can look at it in two ways, which is, hey, like, I'm just going to keep working, right? Because I can keep working and I'm going to keep getting paid. Or you could just be like, look, I'm going to work until I get the certain amount of money that I want to reach. And then after that, I can take some time off. So that can be anywhere from some people, they only work 6 months out of the year. Right. We did an article once from a guy a urologist who works half the year and makes $400,000 a year. Right. If you're really smart with your money, like that is a great way to live. The question is, when you're young in your career, do you want to work like that? If you're old in your career, do you want to work like that? Like you have to decide what you want to do and how you want to work, because this ain't residency anymore, baby. This ain't residency. This ain't fellowship. There's nobody keeping track. It's up to you. So Elizabeth is saying that she wants to be part-time. So yes, absolutely. You can do locums radiology. You can do locums pediatrics. You can do locums EM. And yeah, you can make really good money working lesser days. So it's all there for you. It's just that you have to be very smart in making sure that, I'll leave it to you like this. Before I even get to that point, there's sacrifices that need to be made in order for you to even get to that point. First of all, you got to be able to play the game, right? To play the game is you got to be able to make sure you finish residency, you finish fellowship, whatever is after that point, like getting boards done, you got to finish all of that stuff. Then the next thing after that is the next sacrifice you got to make is what are you going to do about your loans, right? Like, what are you going to do to make sure that nobody can tell you what to do, how to work, when you want to work? And if some of those motivations might be a couple of things, one, how are you going to pay off your loan debt? And or how are you going to pay off credit card debt? And or if it's going to be paying off a really hella mortgage that you can't afford, that's going to change your mathematics a little bit, right? Even kids, that might change your mathematics a little bit, right? But the question is what kind of lifestyle do you want? It's not going to be perfect, but if the ultimate goal is to have complete control of your life and how you work and when you work and how much you work, there's going to have to be some type of sacrifice is going to have to be made. The question is that sacrifice that you're making enough to, stop you from going forward with this type of lifestyle that you want, which is work when you want, make as much as you want, possibly get a significant amount of time off. That's the way I look at it. And that's how I talk about with folks is in order to get whatever you want, just know that there's always a cost benefit type of ratio. It's never going to be a perfect world. But if you know me, you know that I say everybody should do locums in some portion, right? You ain't got to do it 100% of the time, but you should at least do it to a point where you at least get the taste of it. Because I think if you got the taste of it, you're like, yeah, I like this. And I don't want to go back. So after doing residency and fellowship, I decided that I was going to do locums. So like all of my fellows, my co-fellows were interviewing, for academic positions. This is when I was at Miami. They were interviewing for academic positions, and I was interviewing. I was just trying to get back home to Jersey, but I was interviewing at places. My father had prostate cancer, so I was trying to get back. And the interviews were great, but the negotiations were less than stellar. Let's leave it to you like that. There were a lot of places that would say you'd be on call, and when you get the contract, they didn't want to properly delineate how often you'd be on call. A lot of places didn't want to delineate, well, if you are on call and you go past a certain threshold, how much you would get paid. And that's important. And I think that one of the biggest disservices that attendings, folks who've kind of done the process before us, one of the biggest things that I think they do to us is they don't tell you how important it is for lifestyle, as well as, in essence, how you're going to finance your life, right? If you're going to finance your life through working and, by being a doctor for the rest of your life, like, it's important for you to understand how you're going to do that. And a lot of that has to do with how you negotiate, how you get paid for call, how you get paid for doing operations, if you believe in that, RVUs or, procedures, or how many patients you see. That's very important. And if you don't know much about that as an attending, you should at least give your opinion to your residents and say, hey, look, I wish I knew more about RVUs, or I wish I knew more about locums, or I wish I knew more about X, Y, and Z, so that I can make these type of decisions now, as opposed to, yeah, I don't know anything about that. And if you go into locums, you're killing your career. Or I don't know anything about private practice, but if you go into private practice, you're killing your career. And I think that's a big disservice to folks who are training. And yeah, I know you're scared as an attending, but it doesn't mean that you should pass that down to your residents and even young attendings. So that's what I would say is a big disservice. Definitely, I would say that's a big disservice. And to be honest with you, I forgot what the bigger point of what I was trying to make is, but it doesn't matter. I think we the decisions, like, I think one of the really interesting things about medicine is the path to becoming a doctor is extremely unique, right? It's different than the corporate world. It's different than sports. It's very different. But the things that affect everybody else in their job in terms of corporate, the corporate things that happen in job, middle management, all that stuff still exists in medicine and healthcare, just so you know. So if you go in thinking, oh, my life is going to be different. Yeah, I mean, like, how you do your day-to-day operations is different than 99% of people who work, right? Right. 99% of people don't get a chance to talk to patients and the patient will let you know about things that they don't even tell their partner, or be able to, put a chest tube in someone or save someone's life. Like, those are things that it's extremely unique to what we do. Right. But yeah, there's middle management. There are people who have like degrees that are less than what you have. No shade, but they might get paid more than you, or they have control over you than what you thought you would have when you first started. And that could be a problem. And if you are willing to do some work in the beginning, which is what me and Renee did, that kind of leads you down a path of kind of being able to do what you want to do. I don't know who's texting me during this time. Don't they know that I'm doing a podcast? But yeah, that's kind of how I look at it. If you're going to want to be a part-time doctor, just understand that you're going to play the game for a little bit, and then you have to decide, is it going to be the red pill or the blue pill? That's what Renee says all the time. And if you take the red pill, which may be, the prototypical traditional pathway, just prepare for this. If you're going to take the blue pill, which is going to be something completely different, and it could be locums, it could be private practice, it could be social media, it could be whatever it may be, just know that it comes with a whole host of other issues that, you should be prepared for. But I can tell you right now, as a locums doc, if I don't have to go back, I won't go back. No siree. If I can fight it, I won't do it. So that's my thoughts on that. Good question, though, Elizabeth. And I'm glad you appreciate our videos on YouTube. Guys, also make sure we're on YouTube. Check us out on YouTube, all right? We'll be right back. All right. I'm going to keep this short. I'm going to keep this sweet because in general, I know there's not that many people who use Android who are listening to the show, right? I know overseas, there are a lot of people who use Android as an operating system who listen to our show, but I'm going to tell you right now, when I grew up, I had a Commodore 64. Then I had, some version of an IBM compatible PC. I never rocked with Mac. The only time I rocked with Mac was at school, and it was like the Sierra Canyon or whatever, I forgot what it was, but nobody messed with Macs. I don't know if you guys remember back in the 80s and 90s, like Macs were corny back in the day. And then, when the new wave of new Macs came out in the late 1990s and so forth, I fought all that stuff off. But I I use a MacBook right now. I love it. The chip is great. But for cell phones, I'm not switching to iOS. I don't like it. I think Android is the best. And I just want to give my thoughts on the new phone that I have, which is this Pixel 9 XL, which is so beautiful. Don't you agree? If you guys can see it on video, this phone is amazing. And this phone, I think, is finally the phone that is going to make a lot of people be like, Google's not playing. So I know like people who are listening right now and they have an iPhone, I know you may want to just fast forward this point, because I know there's absolutely nothing that I can tell you right now to make you switch from your whack iPhone to a Google or a Samsung phone. But for those Samsung folks right now who are listening, they're like, yo, this Samsung S24 is great, but I don't want to pay like S24 prices of like $1,300 and so forth. Listen, this phone right here, Nuno, right here, this phone right here is amazing. Pixel 9 XL, I love it. The build quality is amazing. It looks like an iPhone to me. I ain't gonna front. Like the other Pixels that I've had in the past have been okay. The build quality has been okay. Has never been on par with iPhone, and I've always had iPhone jealousy in terms of how well it's built. I've also had, Samsung jealousy of how well they're built. But for the first time, this phone is well built. This is an amazing build, and it's great. I love it. And I'll be honest with you, the reason why I've had Pixels is because the picture quality on a Pixel, and if you are an iPhone user, you know what I'm talking about. There's times where you see someone with a Samsung or you see someone with a Google Pixel and you're like, yo, I love my phone, but I need them to take the picture, right? If you haven't, check out a Pixel picture. It is amazing. And having little kids, I just wanted a phone. Like, I didn't want to get a camera because I knew it was going to be too much to carry a camera and to carry my phone. So to have a dedicated camera, I was like, this is not going to work for me. So I just needed a camera, or I needed a phone that took really good pictures, and I was willing to sacrifice everything else. Plus, the phones were always cheaper, right? So I could get a Google Pixel phone for like $300, $400, and I knew spending that amount of money, the phone would last me 3 years, and I'd have the best pictures. The video quality is not that great, but I know at that price point that I have the best pictures. The shutter speed is great. No matter what my kids are doing, it's a great picture. It's going to do that computational photography and all that stuff. It's better than any phone out there. Everybody knows that. If you don't, now you know. But the build quality wasn't up there. The battery life for the Pixel wasn't up there. And like the processor speed, was, after about a year and a half, you can tell like the phone was like, it's taking a long time. Like I need to reset this phone. But I mean, you can say that about an iPhone also. It's just that because you're an iPhone user, you just don't want to admit that. And you spend a lot of money on it, right? My line. And then you had iMessage, and the Apple ecosystem is no joke, right? The Apple ecosystem is amazing. Like they've done think pieces. There's podcasts, there's YouTube channels that are dedicated specifically on the ecosystem of Apple and how it keeps you locked in. And there's like the way how I describe it is, I think Android makers make better phones, but the experience is better on an iPhone, right? And I didn't really understand this until I had a Tesla, right? And when I had a Tesla, the Tesla is, the car's not the greatest, but the ability to just go to a Tesla charger and plug in and not have to swipe a card, it just automatically starts working. And then you have like all of this like secondary end user equipment that you can buy, like a charger specifically for Tesla that Tesla didn't make, but someone made for Tesla, or like car seats or car covers or seat warmers, or all of these different things that you can buy off of different websites that are products that are made specifically for Tesla that make your experience better, right? Because nobody else was really dedicating the time to EVs like Tesla. That's amazing. And that's when I really started to realize, like, oh man, like the iPhone ecosystem is amazing. Apple's ecosystem is amazing because it has everything, right? But I still wasn't trying to switch over. I used Android, right? So for me, the biggest thing is the battery life. Battery life has to be really big. So I'm going to tell you right now, with this phone right here, battery life is amazing. All day battery life. So I'm talking about when I'm at work, because this is the big thing. Like, can I go to work without taking a charger with me? Because if my call starts at 7 o'clock in the morning and then I'm done at 7 p.m., right? Like, let's really do what's the real life, right? I'm charging until 5:15 in the morning. I take it off the charger. I'm listening to a podcast. Or I'm watching a YouTube video. I get to work by 7 o'clock. And then, basically from 5:45 until midnight, I don't have to charge my phone. I'm from 5:45 at 100% with this phone. I'm getting all the way to like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock with like 20% left. And that's still doing a workout afterwards, right? That's doing a workout within that, excuse me. So the battery life on this phone is amazing, right? And during the day, like I'm getting mad calls. I'm getting mad different hospitals calling me to transfer patients in. I'm getting calls from all the different hospitalists about X, Y, and Z. I'm getting calls I'm calling neurosurgeons. I'm calling orthopedic surgeons. I'm calling, the OR. I'm on YouTube in between stuff, right? I'm on WhatsApp, right? I'm doing video chat with the kids, all this stuff. And I'm finishing the day with like 20%, 15%. Which is definitely not what I was getting with my Pixel 7. Like by the time 6:45 comes, 7 o'clock comes, I'm like at 15%. And then in order to work out, I got to charge my phone to get like that extra like 15% so that, when I'm working out, the phone doesn't die on me. So this is great. I love it. Video, the video is great, right? So look, if you look at the tiers, right, the best video is iPhone on a phone. Video. Second would be the Samsungs. And then third, I think, would be Pixel. But like the difference is not night and day. But for a fact, like people are filming movies or portions of movies with their iPhones. So that's how good the quality of the video on an iPhone is. Would you do that on this phone? Hell no. You're not going to do that. But for me, for the average person who just wants to film their kids and make sure that it's not blurry, or to make sure that I have the memories of like, my kids, meeting me at the door when I come home from Locums, or, taking them to the park, or like, beating them in basketball or chasing them down the block and using that video, and it works so quickly. It's like better. It's amazing. Like the ecosystem, I think, for Google is great. The ability for me to upload all my stuff and have it available for me, my pictures and videos, to the Google Cloud is amazing. The AI, I'll be honest with y'all, whether it's AI on Apple or AI on Google or AI, whatever it is, it's, to me, AI at this point is like 3D. Right? Remember 3D glasses and 3D TVs? It's just it's a novelty. I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done in order for us all as people to really decide that we're going to use, or to really feel that oomph, that tipping point that, you should really be using AI in what you do on an everyday basis. Now, you may hear about AI and you may hear about how AI is going to change the world in the future, and AI is doing things to affect your job and so forth. But like, I'd be very hard pressed, and you guys can write in and let me know. I'd be very hard pressed to find out tell me if you're using AI on a daily basis, right? Like the X-ray machines now are using AI to tell us like how far the endotracheal tube is from the carina. Like that's great and all, but even that I don't even trust. I'm like, let me look and check and make sure, because I don't know, right? Some of these computers be making, or these AI things be making some big mistakes and stuff, right? Like you can't trust all of that stuff. And as a result, like I look at it like the 3D TVs, like there was like this huge rush for everybody to get a 3D TV, and ESPN made like a separate 3D, channel for this, and it's gone. Because I think that like there's just too much friction, really, right? You have to put glasses on and you have to sit there and not get dizzy. And then you have to make sure that movie was actually in 3D. And I think the same thing with these AI things that they're talking about on this is like the stuff that they want you to do AI on, which is to change the picture and to have AI do it. Like, who wants to do that consistently? Like, you're not going to use that. A lot of this stuff is gimmicky type stuff. So I'll be very honest with you. Like the AI that they have here is very gimmicky. And I think those who are waiting for AI to show up on your iPhone, you're going to be disappointed also, because I just don't think AI is there on a mass appeal standpoint for you guys to really be swayed by it. That's my thoughts on it. And then I got real quick here a Pixel Watch 3. This is an amazing watch. The battery life is great. I can get a day and a half if I don't work out. The screen is great. The tracking is great. There's a great YouTube channel that is able to compare and contrast like really expensive smartwatches. We're talking about smartwatches that are like $600, $700, like the Garmin's and stuff, and their ability to track heart rates compared to like Apple Watches and the Pixel Watch and, you know, Fitbits and things like that. And this and the Apple Watch are really high up there. So I'm part of the Google ecosystem, and that's part of the reason why I'm bringing this up, is that as much as I'm talking about the Apple ecosystem keeping you walled in, like I'm getting walled in myself with the Google ecosystem, and this watch is really great. I can get through the entire day of working, and I got the LTE version, which means that, like, you know, my phone doesn't have to be nearby. I can still get phone calls off of this. And the reason I like that is there are times when I'm in the operating room and my phone is on, you know, the table and I can't hear it, but at least my watch will start buzzing and I can tell someone, hey, go answer my phone. Or, you know, even through my scrubs and through my sterile stuff, I can tap it and I can have a phone call if someone wants to transfer a patient or if someone wants to get a consultation. It's very useful. Is it perfect? No. But I like it a lot. It's really great. So I would definitely recommend it if anybody's out there and they're thinking about, you know, what kind of watch would they get for an Android. Definitely would recommend it. And that's pretty much it, y'all. That's it. That's the updates here with Docs Outside the Box with the Darkos. So yeah, we're purchasing a home and you're learning a bit about my fitness journey. And yeah, you know how I feel about Pixel watches compared to Apples and Samsungs. But yeah, let us know what you think about these episodes or an episode like this. Anywhere that you want to let us know, we'll see it. YouTube, wherever, we'll find it. Listen, guys, I'm going to catch y'all on the next episode of Docs Outside the Box. Hopefully by then, Dr. Renee will be back. Catch you guys on the next one, y'all. Peace.